Okay, I think we all set to start. Just minimize this. Okay. So let me just can I request the participants to shut off the video? The screen will be full of videos. So therefore, if you can hide video, we'll hide everything, I think. No?
Just hide video. Video panel.
Okay. That doesn't hide my video and all that.
No.
Okay. So I think it's time to start with all these formalities for the technology. Om. Om Badram Karne Bishunuyama Devaha Badram Pashye Makshabiryajatraha Sthirairangai Tuštuvagum Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddashavaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarksho arishtanemihi Swasti no brihaspatir dadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. So after nearly 2 years, more than 2 years, we have reassembled in the classroom. And first of all, I pray to the grace of the Lord that we continue meeting in the classroom also, in addition to our live and other means by which we will be able to access this classroom. So this time I thought we will discuss Mundakopanishad. We have in the past seen only one Upanishad, if you remember a few years back, Taittiriya Upanishad. And I was thinking that we must get back to our Upanishad. In between we did Ramayanam and many other things. So the charm of Upanishad always is there. So we thought, why don't we get back? See, every human being throughout the world, I mean, we don't have to necessarily delineate in terms of caste or creed or nationality, nothing. Every human being, in fact, I would say Sakala Jiva Rashi, not just human being, living beings. I would even enlarge it. Although we will discuss more about human beings because that's something which immediately connects to us. But the Moola Uddesha of Sakala Jiva Rashi is to go after happiness. Whether it is a one-celled amoeba or the most evolved creature called human being, we all actually have only one goal. And that goal is, I want happiness. I don't think anybody would say, I don't want happiness, or don't thrust the idea of happiness on me. Nobody is going to say all that. I think the core existential objective for us is that we want to be happy. Happiness is a very fundamental reason why we exist. Now, if we look at every one of us right from our childhood, right from that child which in the 3rd month learned to navigate a little bit, it also finds happiness. In a year, as a 1-year-old child gets up for the first time, it's full of happiness. It's nothing but a bundle of joy and happiness. So right from the childhood, he may be pursuing 100 things, but the underlying theme is actually we are going after happiness. I mean, if you carefully think about it, that's what it is. So the entire life journey is one of actually finding the happiness. This is how we actually, you calmly think. I think this is one dimension which we cannot afford to miss. We may not explicitly say that. Sometimes we do explicitly, but many times we don't. But fundamentally, our quintessential nature is to go after happiness. Now, let me tell you, the person who commits a lot of sins, the person who sits on a meditation, the person in between these two extremes of whichever continuum you want to take, are actually all only doing this. The differences are because we are actually engaged in the process. So our life is a journey, is a process of finding the happiness, actually speaking. That's how we seem to be engaging our life. And moment you say happiness is a process that we are in, not necessarily an outcome that we reach it today evening 8:30 and that's the end of it. It's not like that. It looks as though it is a process. It's a continuous process of trying to actually find this happiness. And so that brings a great deal of variations. And it brings such a huge variations. We start with something. For some people, they think that for a student, for example, I think a fair sense of happiness is standing first in the class, for example. There is a certain sense of happiness that I want to be on the top of the class. For a person who is finishing his education, he or she thinks getting a good job is happiness. For a person who got a job, thinks that the salary that I get in my next job is happiness. For a person who has a good salary, the list of items he or she possesses becomes an index of happiness. And in this journey of possessing the items, then there is a whole lot of things list open. I think this set of items is not what I'm looking for. I know this list keeps on changing now. So like this life is a journey of an eternal search for happiness. And while we engage in this journey of trying to understand what is this happiness and so on, there is a certain wisdom which builds in us. It's not that we actually see it every day, but every now and then, in the sense, there are occasions in our life when we step back, we get a little sense, there is a certain learning about happiness that happens. That's what we go through in life. There is a certain learning about this notion of happiness which we all go through. And that puts a great variety of people in the society. Because each one of us are in a certain level of understanding of what is this happiness, this notion of happiness. So it has so many dimensions. So let us look at some dimensions. The first dimension of happiness is not without, it's not outside. I mean, it takes quite a bit of janmas for people to even get the understanding of that. Not even one janma. Happiness is not in object. Whereas for a variety of us, for a large number of us, for most part of our useful life, we go after external objects. And we go after external objects thinking that's where the happiness lies. So this realization, happiness does not lie in an external object, itself will take a lot of time. This process will make us wiser in different ways. And one can logically argue all these. For example, if the happiness is in an object, let us say. So for example, let us say I like sweets. So the happiness is in sweet, that object. Now, simple logic says, if a piece of jamun or a piece of laddu can give happiness, and the happiness is in that object, you should give to everyone uniformly in the crowd. if the happiness is there. For some people, they hate sweets. For some people, although they like sweets, the law of diminishing returns starts. First laddu you can take, maybe the second laddu. Definitely, I don't know about the third laddu, but definitely not the fourth laddu. You'll vomit everything. So therefore, that the happiness, first of all, is not in the object. And it takes a while for many of us. We go after a lot of objects. And I frequently give this example. When you ask for a pen, people give the pen and keep the cap. The happiness lies in vouchsafing the pen. It looks like. Nowadays, it's become more or less a consumable. But what I'm saying is our notion of what gives us satisfaction and happiness seems to be a very, very long list. We keep trying. We keep on trying and trying and trying. And then there is some wisdom which grows in us. So one of the wisdom is maybe happiness is not outside. Maybe it doesn't appear that happiness is not in the object. That itself takes a while, whereas conceptually we may be aware of it. Experientially, we may not be aware of it. That's why I'm keeping the cap with me and giving you the pen. When conceptually I know very well, happiness does not lie outside. To bring it into practice takes even more time. Because if a person develops a deeper understanding and realization that happiness does not lie in objects, that person will develop a very healthy, positive dispassion. Dispassion is not a negative word. There can be a very positive dispassion, which means a certain sense of indifference, which means I will use it. But I am not going to jump up and down if something happens to it. Or, if, for some people, when you buy a car, I mean, this is again, I have seen, when you buy a car, till you get the first scratch in the car, it's a very tense life actually. Yes. And the first scratch is a scratch on me, not on the car. Like that, what we may know as a concept does not get into us. So to imagine that happiness does not lie outside itself is a very long journey. I am not talking about the conceptual idea. Conceptual idea, one can read a book, memorize it, all that we can do. The experiential part of it may take a lot of time, but we will all go through it because that is what we are engaging in life. And many things, for example, people get a promotion, they are very happy, but their happiness is short-lived. In a few months or a year, they are at the bottom of their depression. So therefore, that day when he got the promotion, that happiness is not there. So we don't know what is really happening and so on. So like this, throughout this life journey, while we keep engaging in all these, we also develop a certain sense of what is this happening. So let me bring a few things that can happen to us in our journey for happiness as we deal with the empirical world as an ordinary mortal. After all, we lead our life, right? So we want happiness, but we have certain qualifications to that happiness. That's where the problem is. That's what is the learning that we have. We want happiness which is non-decreasing. It should not be something which gets exhausted in half an hour or a few days or a month. It should not happen like that. But there are a lot of happiness in Bhagavad Gita. There is a definition for Sattvic Sukha and Rajasic Sukha. In Rajasic Sukha, in Sattvic Sukha, it says, Yat Arambe Vishamiva, Pariname Amritam. Whereas Rajasic Sukha is Vishayendriyas, Arambe Amritamiva, Pariname Visham. So that is the process that we are going through. We find that it is decreasing. The quantum of happiness I enjoyed at the time I got the promotion, or I got my new car, or I got married and I got a new house, or I got a whatever. You can list a whole lot of external things. All these are external things. These are called, Krishna calls them as kshetra. Kshetrajna is different from kshetra. So whenever you acquire anything new, there is a certain happiness, but that happiness sort of. So we have qualified, we then realize, No, I am looking for a non-decreasing happiness. Whereas this happiness seems to be decreasing. This is an experience in life. And we have to go through, we cannot run away from it. So I'm not even by any stretch of imagination saying, therefore, let us get out of, that's not the idea. The idea is to live through it and get our wisdom. Then we want permanent happiness has to be forever. Whereas our happiness is fleeting. I am happy today morning, I am not happy today evening. Tomorrow afternoon, I am happy, again I am depressed. So it is a, agamapaino anityaha. That's what he says, Krishna says. They have a habit of coming and going. So it is not permanent. It is not continuous. It doesn't stay with me. Doesn't even stay with me. So it is not continuous. It is not ever fresh also. There is a diminishing return which starts in happiness. As I told you, assuming I like sweet or kara, as I start consuming it, they say familiarity breeds contempt. Sometimes they say like that. Means as you are using it too much and you start not really wanting it. Better off not with this. So it is not ever fresh. It is not ever fulfilling. What appeared to be fulfilling is not fulfilling. In fact, sometimes it was counterproductive. They start, they're saying, let me start doing this from tomorrow. Let me go to this session or let me start this because I thought that is a good thing. After 15 days, it's such a drag. They just say, that's all, enough. Let's now look for the next flavor. Maybe this doesn't seem to work for me. All these are indications that we are pursuing happiness elsewhere. If you pursue happiness from a temporary source, all these will happen. That's the difference between temporary and permanent. See, Agni's inherent nature is heat. So Agni will always give heat. Whereas if you take a vessel, you take an element which is connected to a electricity, as long as you switch it on, it will give heat. When you switch it out, it becomes cold. So it will go. So the inherent nature of happiness, if you are not able to touch, then that happiness will be borrowed. Nevertheless, we do that because that is part of the life journey which we are going through. And while we pursue so many things in our life, we constantly, somewhere there is a program running at the back of our mind. Is it giving me happiness? So that's why, we start changing gears. After some time, we say, not this, I don't want it anymore. What I like the most, I want to throw it. Start afresh. So many things we do. Why? Because there is a constant checking happening somewhere, which constantly checks to these 4 parameters. Is the happiness non-decreasing? Is the happiness permanent? Ever fresh? Ever fulfilling? If you say no, then you tick it off. Then we start something else. So this journey is not bad. I am not talking bad of this journey because this journey is inevitable. Out of the journey, we pick the basic roots of what is happiness. The rudimentary ideas of what is this Ananda. We need to understand the rudimentary behaviors, rudimentary properties of it. So when we do all that, our journey and our experiences, so many things it teaches us. It tells us happiness is not guaranteed. And that's the wisdom of life. If somebody has become wiser in life, they will understand sometimes happiness is simply not guaranteed. That's a great wisdom that we learn by wading through this experimental path of life that we are going through several janmas. Happiness is not guaranteed sometimes, right? Fleeting in nature, so fleeting in nature. So therefore, either you have to give up the idea, but our inherent nature is not to give up that idea. Because our Vedantic text says you are nothing but Sat, Chit and Ananda. Satchitananda Swarupa. That is our inherent nature. That is why we are searching for it. Maybe we are searching for it at a wrong place, searching for it with the wrong means. See, suppose, let us say I misplaced my diamond ring. I was sitting in this room. Just imagine this situation. I was sitting in this room, and maybe I was just talking and left the diamond ring here. I was just loosened it, I kept it here. Then I went to, after an hour or two, I went to the other room. Then I find that my diamond ring is not to be found. If I search in the other room, leaving this room, if I do a thorough search everywhere, I'm not going to get the diamond ring at all. It doesn't matter how much effort you put. So the same way, we are embodiment of happiness. Maybe we don't know where to search. We don't have the right mechanism to search. Even that is also possible. So all these are actually life experiences. We want to actually, when things don't happen in life, this is how we have to understand life, rather than getting depressed, rather than getting upset about a few things. I mean, all those emotions are fine, but then we have to move to the next stage, and that's where the wisdom of life is. We need to understand these things, that it is fleeting in nature, it's of diminishing nature. I don't think any single external object can endlessly give me happiness, because it is not the source. It is a borrowed source anyway. So the borrowed source is finite, whereas there is an infinite source of happiness, which is our own Swarupa, is what the Vedantic texts say. Anyway, we will see it. So therefore, any of these, when we sense that happiness we are not able to get, it is not continuous, it is diminishing, then we should understand we are not tapping the right source of happiness. Or we have wrongly understood that happiness lies there. Because if it were true, none of this can happen. If all these happens, that means they are meant for something else, not for happiness. So today, in our living, in a very ordinary thinking, we believe that the next iPhone, i12 is going to, i13 is going to be the happiest thing. That we think like that. We think that is where happiness lies, in many of these kind of things, the kind of dresses I buy, the new things that we do, and so on. So slowly we understand, when it doesn't fulfill all these, that is not where the source of happiness is. And that wisdom we get by plowing through it. And then as we go through it, then the question is, then why are we doing all that? So our texts, our scriptures have actually addressed all these so beautifully. Because naturally a question will come, if these activities per se, they are not giving happiness, then why are we engaging in all these activities? The question may come. Then we'll give up all that. In fact, Arjuna has asked such questions in Gita also. Chapter 3 asks in a particular way, chapter 5, same question he asks slightly differently. Because if you ask the same question again and again, people will get angry. Chapter 18, he intelligently used the word Tyaga. Somewhere he used sannyasa, he used different words, but he was coming to the same point again and again. Why should I do all this? Can I get out of all these? So our scriptures have answered all that. Now, the last bullet is the most interesting thing. In our search for happiness, in worldly objects outside, which is fine, we are trying. If you calmly think, we would actually spend enormous effort in removing so-called obstacles for that happiness, which is anyway temporary. Look at how much effort we spend, a lot of effort in removing those obstacles which come in the way of happiness, which we have been pursuing. And one day wisdom comes, that's not the real happiness, that's a different story. So this is how we spend time. Now, if this is how we actually have been spending our time, and then passing our life from home to tomb like this, then where are we going? What is the issue here? Now, a good example for this, suppose we have a very powerful machine, very sophisticated machine given to us. These are simple machines. I'm talking of, these are quite versatile, but a very versatile, powerful machine. No operation manual to you. You are given only a machine. That's all. No operating manual. What do we do? We start using the machine. If there was operating manual, you would have referred. If machine makes some noise, or some sound comes, or some light is blinking, then immediately, maybe there is a manual which says if this light is blinking, that means voltage is down, or something will be there. Imagine you have a machine with absolutely no manual. Many of us lead our life like that. We have been given a beautiful machine. It's a very, by far the most complex machine is this body, mind, intellect complex. This Prakriti, which sits along with the Purusha. This is the most sophisticated ever possible machine ever discovered here by the grace of the Lord. The Lord discovered it. None of the human beings discovered it. He created it in his laboratory in whichever ways, but we don't have a manual. It looks like we don't seem to be using any manual. And if I use this machine without manual, this is what I will be doing. I will try.
So what's your view on evolution of human in the, whatever you said, the God has created this complex machine kind of thing. The other people will say it is an evolution kind of thing.
No, whatever it is, I am saying this particular is the final step of the evolution. There will be many things before that. I am saying if this particular equipment, if we do not know how to use it, then the only thing that we'll do is we'll try. We will try and accumulate wisdom. This is one method.
No, from the God's perspective, did he try out trial and error, chimpanzee, trial and error, then human?
No, no, I don't think that's a difference between Alpajna and a Sarvajna.
Yes.
So that may not be the situation. I don't think we have any such discussions of any kind. The evolution is evolution is not from a perspective of we tried something, it didn't work, it's not like that. It is creating that world of multiplicity for a different reason and so on. So anyway, so this particular equipment, I don't think it is a very efficient way to use it simply by trying. Therefore, the question that we have is there a way we have a manual that makes, so that is why the happiness is part of it. If you use a machine, let's say, there is a cone, there used to be this machine in which you pour the milk on one side, the cone ice cream will come, they'll put a, the cone and then take it. If you don't know how to put what and where to get it out, you're never going to get that cone ice cream. The same way, use this equipment to find that ananda, which is the ultimate thing. We are just trying. Maybe we are just trying. This is one way. Another way is if there are people who have walked through the path, if there are people who have thought about it, there are people who have experienced it, we can, it's called Shabda Pramana. In our Indian scheme of things, we have, Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, then Shabda, Aptokti. The words of the wise people, Shabda Pramana is used everywhere. If somebody goes to a heart surgery, this is Shabda Pramana. The surgeon actually makes a call and says, this is what it is, we have to do like this. We just go by that expert advice. So in the same way, there is a life science. So we are now talking of the science of life. And is there a manual? And why do we need a manual? I am reminded of a very nice shloka from Viveka Chudamani. Let me bring that shloka now. It says, Aptoktim kananam tato pari tata upari shiladi utkarshanam utkarshanam swikritim nikshepah samapekshate nahi bahihi shabdaistu nirgacchati tadvat brahmavit upadesha manana dhyanadibihi labhyate maya karya tirohitam swamamalam tattvam na duryuktibihi. See, there is a treasure. Imagine there is a treasure somewhere down. You can't stand on the ground and shout treasure, treasure, treasure. Treasure is not going to come out. That's what it is saying. He says, nahi bahihi shabdaihi nirgacchati. It doesn't come just because you made a certain noise. It doesn't come out because you made a noise. Nothing comes like that. Aptokti, you need an expert who should say how to approach it. See, oil. Where is oil? In what depth oil is there? There is a certain expertise to it. Water or the minerals. That's aptokti. Kananam, you have to dig. Okay. Upari shila, there may be slabs and stones and all that. You have to utkarshanam, take it out. Right? Then only you can take. In the same way, if something is a treasure, merely shouting the treasure is not going to come. In the same way, you can't say Ananda, Ananda from morning to evening, shout. There is a certain methodology for everything, right? So, Tadvat, in the same way, Brahmavit, if somebody wants to know that ultimate knowledge, right? Then there is a methodology prescribed, Upadesha, Manana, Dhyana, right? Dhyana adibihi labhyate. So there is a certain manual already available. There is a manual available for the journey that we are all making. Not that it is not available, it is available. It is available, there is expertise available, there are aptokti, everything is there. And equivalent to the effort of digging. See, for every word there is an equivalent word here. Upadesha, Manana, Dhyana, it's all like digging, lifting the slabs and throwing it away. That's like the Manana. It will destroy a lot of mental models when we do the Manana. That's why Manana is required. So for every word in the first line, you have a third line equivalent. Kanana, Shila, Utkarshanam, all those kind of things. So there is a certain methodology available, and that is what it is. So our scriptures, if you look at our entire scriptures, Adi Shankara in his opening statement to Bhagavad Gita Bhashya, he says, Dvivido Vedokto Dharmaha, Pravritti Lakshno, Nivritti Lakshanascha, Jagataha, Sthiti Karanam, Sakshat Praninam, Abhyudaya, Nishreya Sahetu. So if you look at our entire, so we have a vast repository of resources, which are actually the operation manual for this equipment. For getting that happiness, which is non-decreasing, everlasting, non-fleeting, ever fresh, whatever attributes. So there is a very vivid scheme of things which have been put together. That's a vast repository. Not that we didn't have a repository, because our rishis and seers and Santa Mahajana, they have walked through this path. I mean, we have come several millions of years later. There is so much of wisdom, because this idea that we need happiness, you come after 10 million years, that is what it is. You came 20 million years earlier also, that is the Uddesha. So therefore, this is something which is a constant preoccupation of people. So they have shared, they have talked about it, they have given so many examples. Now, if you look at this Sanatana Dharma literature, the entire literature, it actually presents it in a particular way. So Shankaracharya said, Dvivido Vedokto Dharma, Pravritti Lakshana and Nivritti Lakshana. In Veda, you have two repositories. One is Pravritti Dharma, because we all have to engage. So, as I said, we are engaging for happiness. Just because we don't get happiness, it doesn't mean we don't have to engage. Krishna says, Na karmanam anarambat naishkarmam prushoshate. Narmaka nakarma sanyasana deva siddhim samadhi gachati. You have to, work is required for a particular reason. That is the idea. The very idea of engaging in the world of activities which we have to has a certain necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition for that happiness. So our Vedic repository is so beautifully organized. So very quickly I'll touch upon that, because from there we'll come to the Upanishad.
That means the Gnana Marga and the Karma Marga goes hand in hand.
They are all parts of a certain journey that we have to go. So if you look at the Vedic repository, the Vedic repository has Pravritti Dharma and Nivritti Dharma. Both are propounded. In fact, 70 to 80% of Vedic repository is Pravritti Dharma. Nivritti Dharma is little there. Right? I called it as Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda, and Jnana Kanda. In fact, Samhitas are there. Brahmanas is the biggest portion of Veda. And the Brahmanas are full of actual instructions of many things that we need to do. So the question is then, why is Veda saying all that? When you, and the Veda is also going to say the happiness is not there. You know, in Ishavasya Upanishad, there is a nice mantra. It says, the smallest Upanishads are the toughest Upanishads. That's why I'm not touching them. Ishavasya has 18 mantras. Mandukya has 12 mantras, but they are all heavy. It's not easy. Ishavasya, there is one mantra. It says, Avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyaya amritam ashnute. Beautiful mantra. He says this whole engaging in the world of activities is avidya. But avidyaya mrityum tirtva. You need to do that to exhaust this birth and death business. That you can do only through karma. So you have to engage in karma. There is no direct rain check or something given for you to directly take a pass and you have 20,000 rupees direct pass for no. Avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyaya amritam ashnute. So this nivritti dharma will polish us. Karma kanda is very important. Karma kanda will actually evolve us. Again, Sankaracharya in Viveka Chudamani says, Karmaha chitta shuddhyarte na vastu upalabhyate. Vastu siddhi vicharena na kinchit karma kotibihi. That no way takes away the importance of karma. It gives the perspective for our approach to us. So we have to engage in the work. We have to be part of the work. We have to be part of the Sangha. Mate sangastu akarmani. We have to be part of the society. Our perspective to work will change. The day our perspective to work changes, then the karma will actually take us automatically to the next. So this Vedic pravritti dharma is a set of ideas in which you say, you go through various activities in your life. That's why, the yajnas, all those are called Panchamaha yajnas. The yajna will only purify our mind. If people understood the notion of yajna, the Brahma yajna, Deva yajna, Manushya yajna, Buddha yajna, and Pitri yajna, if you understood that Panchamaha yajnas in spirit, it will only purify our mind. When our mind is purified, we'll engage in work with a lot more passion, with a lot more involvement, not looking for anything coming out of it. We engage, in fact, a lot of these happiness related problems that we engage in the world of work is because we have taken a certain approach to work. So the entire pravritti dharma, which is there in karma kanda, slowly informs us that through the karma you purify your mind, so that doing karma is a very purified act. So that is called the necessary condition for happiness, not the sufficient condition. There's a necessary condition. Then you will find aranyakas. You have Samhitas and Brahmanas. See, Veda, you have these four components: Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, and Upanishad. These are the four broad kind of things. So Samhitas are all mantras, which are all in praise of by and large, they are all, concepts of the world, concepts of many things. For example, Rigveda Samhita, the 10,772 mantras, which are in 10 mandalas. You name anything, cosmogeny, cosmography, anything, everything, sustainability, all ideas are contemplated there by way of prayers. Samhitas are, Brahmanas are all about engaging in the world and doing a variety of yajna through which you try to purify yourself. Engage with the yajna bhava. Yajnatam karmana anyatra karma bandhana. Tadattam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Krishna says in chapter 3 of Gita. Lokan anyatra karma bandhana. Yajnartam karma. Lokan anyatra karma bandhana. Tadattam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. So this karma kanda will actually prepare us, give us that wisdom of that happiness doesn't lie there. But then there is, through the process of doing it, a chitta shuddhi will come. That will actually prepare ourselves for that happiness which is going to stay. Chitta shuddhi itself will give us a certain sense of happiness, actually speaking. Then the aranyakas are there. They are all reflective material, where you step a little bit in Manusmriti. Manusmriti has 12 chapters, 2,755 shlokas are there. The 6th chapter has about 110 shlokas, I think. In the first 40 shlokas, 80 shlokas, I would say, such a beautiful description of Vanaprasthashram. Very beautiful. Some 40, 60 shlokas are there. How you need to, take your hands, you can be part of the samaja. Vanaprastha, we don't have to look for a forest. If you read it with that spirit, you'll understand. It's just, can you slowly take your hands off while you are also part of what is going on? Step back a little bit and start reflecting on larger principles of life. By then, that kind of...
What exactly is the difference between sannyasa and vanaprastha?
No, sannyasa, as if you look at chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita and many other places, Sannyasa is not what you actually ask for and get. I often say, sannyasa must catch you. You cannot catch sannyasa. If you catch sannyasa, then there is a problem. Because I am very CEO material. I want to go get a sannyasa. I go to ashram and destroy the whole ashram with my political ideas. Because I am still very vibrant CEO. So sannyasa is not something I will get. Sannyasa has to get you, according to me. I can't get sannyasa. So it is a natural process of urvarkam vibandha. You should fall off. That falling off which happens involuntarily is sannyasa, according to me. So this is a preparation for it. So in the Aranyaka, it is a lot of upasana. That's why Taittiriya and Taittiriya Upanishad, you will find Taittiriya Upanishad in the three vallis, the Siksha Valli and Brigu Valli are upasanas. It's only Brahmananda Valli which is Vedanta Vichara. Brahmavit apnoti param. That's all is the Upadesha. The rest are all explanation only for it. The entire second chapter, only the first line. Brahmavita apnoti param tadesha bhyukta. That's all. The rest are all explained with that. Then a little bit of Lakshana, Sarupa, and then detailed expression and so on. So then from this karma, then we get into Upasana. Then comes that jnana because you actually go to Apta Ukti, Upadesha, and mind is prepared at that point in time. So all these happen simultaneously, but the proportions start changing. It's not that it has to happen in a very sequential way. I don't think so. But the proportions will start changing. When we are young, we are a lot more engaged in work for good reasons. Well, a little bit of reflection and jnana sampadana will happen. As you more and more gray hair comes, the work slowly tapers, the reflection gets a little more, jnana sampadana gets a little bit more, and so on. So it is this proportion keeps changing, but the three are the broad assignment of how we should look at our life. Also, there are a lot of complementary principles which helps us to lead a life of happiness. That's why we have this Chatur Purusharthas. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Dharma, Artha, Kama, and this Dharma, Artha, and Kama would actually lead us to a state in which we'll drop all these and then go to Moksha. Again, Moksha is like Sanya. It is not that you can go and acquire it. It will acquire us. The frame of mind morphs in such a way that it drops off by itself. The mind is prepared, the jnana nishti happens and all that, but there is some broad goals of life in terms of dharma, artha, and kama, and leading to moksha as a further, natural evolution of pursuing the three. I think we need to pursue the three. The fourth will take over us over a period of time. And in order to do that, the varna ashrama dharma, particularly the ashrama dharma. That's why the brahmachari and the sannyasa, grihastha ashrama and vanaprastha and sannyasa is such a beautiful sojourn. Ashrama is a resting place, strictly speaking, which means we have to park ourselves in each of these for a certain period of time. That's why in Manusmriti in chapter 6, they say, when do you actually go to vanaprastha? It's nicely said in the first 4 shlokas in chapter 6, first 5 shlokas. And then how your attitude should be to life and all those are part of it. So all these are ideas which are part of our life. And in that scheme of things, Upanishad finds its expression in Jnana Kanda. Upanishad is the Vedanta. Now Vedanta, people say Vedanta is Vedasya Antaha. Vedasya Antaha means it is not written in the last 10 pages. Doesn't mean like that. For example, Ishavasya is at the very beginning somewhere. Vedanta is the Anta in terms of the maturity of ideas, not in terms of chronological page. It is not, first 10 pages is Samhita, next 100 pages. It's not that way. Vedanta doesn't mean end of the Veda. End of the Veda in terms of the maturity of that. Not in the actual positioning of the literature here and there. So the Vedanta is also called Upanishads. One body of knowledge is Upanishads. And this Upanishad is solely focused on Atma Vidya. So when the happiness is not outside, now where is the happiness? The Vedanta says the happiness is with you. You are nothing but happiness. Ananda deva kalvimani bhutani jayante anande najatani jivanti. Like that it comes in Bhrigu. So we are nothing but only Ananda. So it is part of you is what it says. So it is something, It is a transaction which is happening within, not outside. Now, if so, there is this world inside and world outside. The whole dharma of doing something with world outside is very different. If you have to deal with the world outside, then you need indriyas for vyavahara. Otherwise, it is not possible. If I have to deal with the outside world, I need pancha indriyas. The pancha indriyas are taken out, I cannot deal with the outside, and the buddhi, manas, chitta, and all that. Whereas dealing with the world inside is a completely different thing. Atindriya anubhava. It is actually without the indriya. The experience is actually better only when there are no indriyas, and we experience it every day. It's not that we don't experience, we experience it in sushupti. Every day we have a deep sleep in which we are completely lost. Our indriyas are switched off, buddhi is switched off, manas is switched off, stula sharira is switched off, sukshma sharira is switched off, everything is switched off. And that is why any number of times the deep sleep never bores us. Something is boring, we probably go for a deep sleep. That is how we engage with that. So this whole methodology of how do we actually understand it, it is swanubhuti. When it is inside, you cannot take some Shankaracharya and Viveka Chona, a lot of examples. He says you cannot borrow somebody's eyes and see the Chandra. There is one shloka like that. You cannot borrow somebody's eyes and see Chandra. So like that, Atmanubhuti is Atmanubhuti. It is a solo journey which we all have to go through. It's a journey which we have to go through by sheer experience. However, there are a lot of people who can give us those leading path. Otherwise, it can be in this Upanishad, there are some beautiful mantras. Andena niyamanaha yathandaha. If we don't get the correct guidance, it says, it's like, we'll see that mantra. It says it is like a group of 16 blind men being led by another blind man. I don't know where will they go. Because, it's difficult, no? You don't know where is the target, you don't know where is the path. So therefore, the Upanishads are primarily meant to give us some sort of ideas of how do we start experiencing it within ourselves. I mean, it is only a personal anubhava. It can only catalyze, it can show you a bit of the terrain or contour, whatever it is, so that you will be able to recognize it for yourself. You can give a lot of errors people have done in the journey, that can also be told. There are things which ought not to be done. There are things which can be done. All those can be told, but finally it is all with individual. So it is an experimentation within, and that's why it's called Atma Vidya. It is purely an individual experience, and happiness, sadness are all individual. My happiness cannot be experienced by you. Your sadness cannot be experienced by me. I can hear it. I do not even know what it means, right? So therefore, there is a methodology by which, and the kind of constructs, the kind of frameworks, all those are part of Upanishad. And the Upanishads are by the great rishis because they have experienced it, they have gone through it. So therefore, out of infinite compassion for the mankind, they have made that. So that is how this whole idea of, so there is a whole repository of manual. One has to take all of them. You cannot take it one piece at a time. I know a lot of people who say, I will have such a udasina bhava about the world, I will pursue Upanishad. It will take nowhere. Because all are related. We have, as long as we live, we have to engage in the society, and Veda and the Karma Yoga and all that tell us how do you approach that. It never says run away from that. How do you approach that? So I don't think it is all compartments which can be chosen. That's why sannyasa cannot be chosen according to me. It's a way of life in which there are complementary ideas which all are required for us. And that, just like you keep on churning the milk, one day the butter comes. The buttermilk, when you churn the curd, the same way all these, so each layer of that matta is like each scripture which is telling us each thing, and we are only churning our life through it. And Navanita will come one day. So I think that must be our approach, and that's why this Vedic repository is there, of which Upanishad is about a certain part, which is the Atma Vidya. As I told you, this whole Vedas are divided into, actually they are divided into only two, mantras and brahmanas. Within Brahmana, you have an artificially three classifications. Actually, it is mantras and brahmanas, that's all. Veda has only two parts, mantras and brahmanas. Mantra is also called Samhita. Samhita and Brahmana are the only two parts of the Veda. The Brahmanas are not the caste Brahmins. Brahmanas are a set of mantras which are instructional in nature, which talks about many things that we need to do and so on. So that's one part, which is the Brahmana. Then, as I told you, Aranyaka and the Upanishad. So all these are part of it. Samhita constitutes the main portion of every Veda. Rig Veda has Rig Veda Samhita. Yajurveda has Yajurveda Samhita. Samaveda has a Samaveda Samhita, 5,500 mantras. Rig Veda has some 7,000, I mean 10,772. Yajurveda has some 7,000 and odd. Atharva Veda has borrowed quite a bit from Rig Veda, some 1,600 mantras. Even Samaveda has, all of them are borrowed from Rig Veda, actually. Purusha Sukta you will find in Rig Veda and in Yajurveda, like that. Okay. Then, as I told you, Brahmanas are the collection of knowledge confined to the rituals, the various yajnas and all that to be done and so on and so forth. They form a very large, because detailed instructions are there, actually. Then Aranyakas start taking a philosophical approach to life. That's why it is called Aranyakas. When you get into Vanaprastha, that's when we need it. That's why it's called Aranyaka. Those who are all into a forest. I mean, it's more a figurative usage. Forest in the sense you have to be a little detached from the happenings. That's the meaning of it, so to speak. So Aranyakas take a philosophical approach. There's a lot of upasanas there. So it's called Upasana. So the first one, the Brahmanas are called Karma Kanda. These Aranyakas are called Upasana Kanda. And of course, we have the Upanishads, which are the thoughts of the Vedic seers on that Atma Vidya. So this is how the whole thing is there. 1,180 Upanishads. There's supposed to be 1,180 Upanishads. We had 1,000 shakas of Samaveda, only 3 are there today. There are 1,000 shakas of Samaveda. There are only 3. Even they are actually going, getting out of this thing. So the 1,180 Upanishads were there. But then there is one Upanishad in which 108 Upanishads are primarily mentioned. Okay. So from 1,180 it has come to 108. Out of 108, there are 10 Upanishads which are very prominent. This one shloka is also Isha, Kena, Kata, right? Mundaka, Mandukya, Prashna, Taitriya, Aitiriya, Brihadaranyaka, and Chandogya. These are the Dasha Upanishads. And these Dasha Upanishads are prominent. There are 4, 5, you have Svetashwara Upanishad, Kaivalya Upanishad, Amrita Bindu Upanishad. There are 4, 5 which are also a little popular. But these 10 are the major, so-called major Upanishads. 5, 6 are minor Upanishads because they have frequently been used by the great seers. The 10 Upanishads are major because somehow I think it is in the considered opinion of all the great seers that much of what is required is available substantively in the 10 Upanishads. Therefore, it's like if you get it, you get most of it. Also, all the 3 acharyas have written bhashyas for the 10 major Upanishads, right? 4 Mahavakyas are all part of the 10 Upanishads. All those are auxiliary, but the 10 Upanishads are the major Upanishads, right? And so that's what it is. They are under different Vedas, because they are all connected to different Vedas. So Rig Veda has 10 Upanishads. I'm talking about only the 108. Rig Veda has 10 Upanishads. Yajurveda has Yajurveda, the Shukla and Krishna Yajurveda, right? So 19 Upanishads in Shukla and 32 Upanishads in I think Ishavasya is a Shukla Yajurveda Upanishad, I think. Taittiriya is a Krishna Yajurveda Upanishad and things like that. Okay. Samaveda has 16 fewer Upanishads. Chandogya is actually a Samaveda Upanishad and so on. Atharva Veda has 31 Upanishads. In fact, there are three Upanishads out of the 10 which are Atharva Veda. The Mundakopanishad is Atharva Veda. Prashna Upanishad is Atharva Veda. Mandukya Upanishad also is, I think, Atharva Veda. All the 3 are Atharva Veda Upanishads. So that is how it is today. So we have finally come down to 10. Okay. And so it is a sampradaya that they actually discuss the 10 Upanishads. If you want to have a full course, they discuss the 10 Upanishads. But the very interesting thing is the shortest Upanishad is the most difficult Upanishad. It is actually Mandukya. See, people confuse Mundaka and Mandukya. They are two different Upanishads. Okay. Mandukya is the shortest Upanishad, just 12 mantras. But Gaudapada's Karika will run for 200 pages for that. Okay. It's all a very profound Upanishad. The next shortest Upanishad is Ishavasya Upanishad, 18 mantras. That's also a very profound Upanishad. Actually, Kathopanishad, Mundakopanishad, Kenopanishad, these are slightly easier. So I also taken a little courage to talk. Taittiriya is at the next level, but we have done it. We have seen it. So Mundakopanishad is a very beautiful Upanishad actually, which is part of the Atharva Veda. So I think we will stop here. It's already 6 o'clock. We will stop here. Started about 5 minutes late today. We have to do all these starting formalities and so on. We will see some very important aspects of Mundakopanishad the next class before we get into the mantras and start seeing the mantras. I think that's what I think next class I want to give a bird's eye view of Mundakopanishad and what are some of the interesting things there. Then we will start getting to specific details of each of the mantras as we go along. I think we will stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.